get this to here, and you can go over here. All right, let's see when it goes live in a second. All right. Hello, welcome. So we have to use speakers so we can hear Laurent. Because I don't have my audio streaming software working quite right. How you doing, Laurent?
I'm good. What about you?
I'm, I'm alive. Hey, so good to see you, man.
Good to see you too.
Yes.
Good to see you too. I hope you're having a good time. Good morning, America, because it's...
Well, this is the world. Realize a whole bunch of customers are over there in Germany and Singapore and the UK and...
I realized that recently, and actually I'm getting reminded of the fact that the products that we have developed together have really come viral at some point, because I had the likes of DJs and producers such as Ferry Corsten using my patches.
Yes.
The Thrill Seekers using my patches.
Yeah.
And none other than legendary techno DJ Kenichi from Japan. The guy has been a hero of mine for like basically 25 years, and I didn't know he was using my patches. And when he came to my country to play last summer, he recognized me.
Yeah.
He recognized me. You're the guys from the patches, and I was like, oh yeah, we just played the same festival. It was really cool, you know.
Wow.
So it's a cool thing, you know. See all those people using my patches regularly, and I use them all the time myself. There are not many people who know it, because I tweak them a lot with external plugins too. But I keep using my patches all the time.
Yeah.
Because that's the purpose of that. Actually, I make patches for myself, and then I end up, just giving them to you, and what happens.
And here they are.
Yeah. So I hope that everyone is okay here. Oh, Michael, yeah, I can barely hear Laurent. I'm sorry about that.
We're working to try to get that better, but it's...
We are working on it.
Yeah.
We are working on it, but it's really, we are having a few streaming issues, and I hope you guys, I'm going to type a message now to...
Let's see here.
A few output issues right now, but what's this?
I was trying to get audio set up, and I thought I had it set up, and it's not set up. So let me get this set a little differently. You might hear Laurent a little better now. I'm trying to get this microphone placed so that it's going to be a little bit more live. Right? So is that a little better?
Yeah, I hope so.
I hope so too. We'll hear feedback from people here shortly if it's a little better. So real briefly, Laurent, explain how long you've been working on this.
So it's actually, it all comes back to a few months ago. And we had already been talking for a third volume for Omnisphere for a long, long while.
Yes.
And I told you about this this kind of sound design project I was working on in parallel.
Yes.
Which was a collection of samples and loops that I was making based on my field recordings. So actually, I ended up, sitting there in my kitchen and just recording stuff like glasses and knives and stuff like this, and then go on the field with my Tascam recorder and just record pretty much anything, just like the Brussels subway passing by, and the kids screaming at school, at my girls' school, and the buses, and pretty much anything I could find, scary noises coming outside, coming from the coming out from the parking lots and the big buildings and everything.
Yeah.
It was really funny, and I went to parking lots myself, recording like my own hand claps, and you will see that in a few with and actually people kept asking me about a volume 3, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna import all those samples that I made, and I made a few of them, and I'm gonna put that into Omnisphere, and we'll see what it gives.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, I realized that I could do so many loops and patches out of it that I just used them all into Omnisphere instead of the main purpose. And secondly, I was also making another product, and I was making like sonic booms and transition effects out of these field recordings, and
Yes.
I let you hear the result. And all of a sudden, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna import that into Omnisphere too, just to see that,
Right.
just to see the result. And all of a sudden, it made sense. I was like, I'm gonna import everything.
Yes.
And I had just remixed a bunch of 200 loops, and this is a surprise. So,
Yes.
and I imported that into Omnisphere too. You might be thinking like, what? Drum loops into Omnisphere? Anything? Well, it was it was really very hard not to crack, but that was worth it. And we'll hear that in a few, because
if you
I got my
notice,
head scratching for a while.
Yes.
Got my head scratching for a while, but once it was done, it was just mind blowing what you can do with that.
Yeah.
But we'll explain that in a few. But let's go back to the percussion and all the samples I recorded. I just wanted to a third volume to seal the deal, to complement the existing first volumes. Well, V1 was the one that started it all,
Yes.
as you know it, and V2 was a good extension, especially the textures and everything.
Yes.
But I was like, hey, there are so many other things missing, such as percussion, a few crashes, but not the crashes you can find, on sample CDs and everything. Not the typical techno crashes and
Right.
And on top of that, I was like, hey, maybe we could do a few more things. And this is when I imported all those these sonic boom effects that I did. And my mind was just blown away, because you can do so much with those imported straight into Omnisphere. It's just crazy. And you will see in the patches, it's not every day that I find new techniques into Omnisphere, but this one, by using granular and with the different filter types of Omnisphere,
Yes.
and by using the keyboard tracking the right way,
Yeah.
you can basically. This is what I did, but we'll see that in a minute.
Yeah.
We can basically make the most wonderful pattern textures and drones ever.
Yes.
And that was for me the eureka moment. It was just crazy, and I remember that.
Yeah.
So it was cool, really.
Yeah. Cool. Well, here, let me introduce everybody to what is coming. So there's 2 libraries we're going to be introducing at the same time. If you look at the list, there's Airwave Volume 3, and then there's Airwave Volume 3 loops. And he was talking about drum loops, and it is true. we will be releasing the first library for Omnisphere that has it's a drum loop library for Omnisphere. And that will be Airwave Volume 3. And it's got some really cool surprises. I don't even know if Laurent, I don't think did you check out the sparse loops at the end of the loops list that I did?
Yeah, not yet, because I just could check them out here, but let me just have a check quickly here.
Yeah, we've been working back and forth. So Airwave Volume 3, the library now has 95 multis, and then when you come to the patches, it's now at 510 patches.
Oops.
It's insane. It's just insane.
Yeah,
so we have so much to show you. It will take. We're not going to go through every patch and everything. There's just no way to do that. The other thing that's really huge to this library is that we're opening up. In the past, it's always been one controller, the mod wheel. I had to go out and buy one of these because we are now using 4 controllers simultaneously, thanks to, Airwave kind of is pushing us along and expanding what we are thinking of doing. So if we want, let's do this. Let's go to the Volume 3. I'll call up something like, I'll just do Adagio for Comets. It's a fun one to play with. Now, here's the thing. Each of the patches now have set up, if you look at the mod list, we're using breath controller, as well as the modulation wheel, as well as foot controller and soft pedal. So that's MIDI CCs 1, 2, 4, and 67.
67
for soft pedal. And what that means is each of the patches that you see here have different settings for 4 controllers. So here we go. You ready? So we can play this. I have display set up here so you can see me controlling the things. Say I wanted to have foot controller. One thing I think would be fun is if this kick on part 5, I'm going to have the foot controller make that go away. So let's take, the easiest way to do that is to go right here. There's a compressor that has the level. Let's go over here and modulate this with foot controller.
Yeah.
And invert it to 100%. So that way, as I'm playing the groove now, when I bring up this, go away. These effects.
This is something I need to add on top of what you're saying here. The reason for me to expand the amount of controllers to 4 is my actually never-ending request towards Spectrosonics to have a macros page.
Yeah.
That will probably never see the light of day. And I wasn't mad. I was like, hey, let's find a workaround about that. And then I double checked in all the controllers and in all the mod sources.
Yes.
And I spotted those names and I was like, but holy.
Yeah, we're not using those for anything else, right? So
it makes sense that we're never using them. And sometimes you're using a bass patch and you want to use your pitch wheel for actually pitch. So you don't want to sacrifice it for another controller. And I was like, 2 is not even enough, especially in the context of a multi like you demonstrated here.
Right.
And I was like, maybe we could do that. And all of a sudden, I used my Machine Jam controller in order to do that.
And just to be clear, you can use any controller. Yes. It could be knobs. I find sliders to be better because it's really easy to have them all. It's hard to do this. I actually had an Akai little keyboard controller here that had knobs, and trying to do this move with all up and down is it's hard. It's not as easy to do. You're trying to control 4 knobs with 2 hands, you know?
You can use, for example, another control from Korg, but you can also
Sure.
use my just like me all of the time, because this is how I program them all the time. I use the knobs on my Complete Control 61 here, and I was really happy with that.
Yes.
But indeed, if you want a better control, and especially on 4 fingers, it makes sense. You know, you use just your left hand for, you know, the full control, and then your right hand to play on keyboard. And especially if you have a sustain pedal, then you're actually mastering the whole thing.
Right. It just makes it more of like a DJ set.
Yeah.
It you know, I mean, one mod wheel is cool, but you want more things to play with, to like dissect the components into 4 things instead of just 1. So now the effects don't have to go up. The effects are on their own slider. Right? And check this out. All these BPM splits are different, fun, incredible grooves. They all have really fun things to play with. So you can hit stack to see what you got.
I see a question from Al Baker here. An iPad mini fader app. Yes, there is a very cool app that you can use for that purpose. Actually, there are several ones, but one of my favorites is Sonic Logic. So you can find it on soniclogicapp.com. Actually, you can create your own fader bank onto your iPad mini. But there are so many others, you know. There is the Limmer app that you can use for that purpose, and there is so much more. So it's really, really cool. But the sounds are, I mean, these are the stars of the library, not the controllers. But full control is a very welcome addition.
Yeah, it's one of those things where just having real-time control like this, and it can be even as small as a little nano control. It's not an expensive thing to add to your studio, but having something for more control. You just do so much more. Your DJ set comes to life in new ways to have stuff like this working.
Actually, the sound of the clock has slightly changed too, so I had to keep that in mind. The BPM is lower, but also we are heading towards a more techno and techno-friendly sound, which is a good thing. Well, that's
where you come from.
Yeah, actually, this is where trance is coming from too, so it makes sense. And I made a couple multis, like Trommel Trommel, but also Belleville Returns. They are so reminiscent of that really cold and dark techno sound that I like. That really works, especially, you know, because there are splits. You have another a patch on the right hand that's really helpful for that purpose, especially for Belleville Returns. It's really, really cool.
Yes. Here's Belleville. I'm going to play Belleville for a second so you can hear it. My audio can't take it.
Yeah, of course. Well, this is due to the stream that is taking a lot of power from your CPU. Honestly, with any modern quad-core or 6-core processor, you should be fine. But you know, the BPM splits are the most CPU
Intensive.
intensive ones.
Yes.
But for the sake, well, because I wanted to please everyone else too, because not everyone can afford a 4-core or 6-core computer. I
Right.
made you know, other kinds of multi, just using 4 patches, because that was the biggest hurdle, the biggest challenge with this
Right.
new library. We are making use of the 2.5
Yes.
features. So what does it mean practically is that you need twice as much CPU if
Yep.
you're using 4 layers on each patch.
Right.
And many of my
Well, even if you don't, no, that's what
Yeah.
that's what people need to understand is Omnisphere now works where 1 patch equals what used to be 2 patches. Even if you're not using them, the CPU resources still are allocated for that. So it is, people have talked about, well, Omnisphere 2.5 is taking more power than Omnisphere 2.4, and it's true. But the reason is because they doubled it. And by doubling it, it means it requires more CPU power just to work the way it is.
I see here a question from Bernie Huber.
Yes.
I would like to address this question.
Yes.
The reason why I didn't use Aftertouch except for a few patches, maybe 2 or 3. The reason why is that most customers they don't necessarily have a master keyboard with Aftertouch. You probably have, which is completely understandable. An Axiom 61, for example, I see you here passing by. It has Aftertouch, but you know, many of my keyboards don't have that. And many of the 2-octave keyboards that you get on the market right now, especially when you're flying, the DJs and stuff, they don't have that. So I was like, I'd rather use something else. That full control feature that's really easy to implement, especially on a tablet, because tablets are really, you know, for controlling your virtual instruments.
Right.
For example, in a plane or in a train, that's really cool, you know.
Yeah.
But Aftertouch keyboard, forget it. It's heavier and it's not always.
Yeah. And it's different for different Aftertouch curves, and so I've always avoided Aftertouch because the thing is this: it's really easy to be played poorly and sound bad.
Yeah, yeah.
And other people don't know about it and they don't use it, and then somebody else plays hard. We had this problem when we were doing workstations with Korg because some of us would show up for these meetings, and you know, some people would play really light, like artistry, and other people were more slammers, and it was really hard to find a balance where Aftertouch was workable for everybody. So I tend to just put it on something you can control this way when you want it. And by accidentally leaning forward to get your coffee, you don't change the key of your sound, you know? I mean, it's so easy to accidentally mess things up with Aftertouch. So.
Yeah. Michael Scott is asking here, release date the 10th? Yes, indeed.
Indeed.
On the 10th of December.
And what is also on the 10th of December?
No, don't tell them. Don't tell them.
It's Laurent's birthday, so belated early birthday wish to you.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, man. I'm really excited. Laurent is coming to the NAMM show this year to hang.
Yeah, that's gonna be my own for myself, my birthday present. I'm gonna buy myself my flight tickets to the NAMM.
Yep.
To California in late January. I'm really looking forward to being there with you guys. And,
anybody that can come to the trade show, it'll be fun to send me a message through Plugin Guru so I can get you my phone number so we can find a way to connect and meet in person.
Yeah.
That's always fun. If you guys have questions as we're doing this, just feel free to pop up favorite plugins, favorite production tricks. Laurent has agreed to answer any questions you might have. I mean, this is a cool opportunity to have. And let's do this. Let me give you a quick overview of the library. We'll do an overview in a bit for the loops. This is just Airwave Volume 3. This is a premium library. It will be more expensive than any other library I've released before because of the incredible amount of hours and hours and hours of work in detailing and getting this to happen. The man needs and deserves to be paid a little bit more for what he has done here and for breaking new ground for this. So what we have,
thank you.
Yeah, of course. Let's start in program mode. So let me initialize this. Like I said, there are 510 patches. There's a ton of component stuff to build your own world. We made this very modular. There's some killer basses, both, and again, 4 controllers. There's some with perc. Okay, there's BPM ARPs like crazy. In fact, this one, 4 bars minimum, is just awesome. 1 finger.
Yeah.
And then you can play.
Single patch here that you were here. This is what it's so cool about it.
So fun. There's a ton of ARPs. There's a ton of BPM basses. All sorts of things from the usual we expect. There's these attacks, and these actually come from multis. These are multis which were set up. Let me show you one multi of bass. There's a whole bunch, there's 10 of these. And what's fun with these is it's 4 patches that are playing sporadic parts. But as you can see, only one's playing at a time. So they're really fun. There's a whole bunch of variations. Yes. Here, say that one more time. I was making a sound while you're saying that, Laurent. What was that about the multis?
Yeah, so I wanted to make use of the multi-function, especially for that purpose, because the bass lines and everything, you can do crazy stuff in there. We're just scratching the surface of what you can do, but these 10 multis are really helpful, you know?
Yes.
Especially,
yeah. Get that harmonic shifting of different sounds, and each of those 4 sounds, if we go over here to program mode, that's what you see down here with the BPM attacks. All of the 4 from the 10s, there's 40 different patches of attack have been pulled out. So if you call up attack.
And we can thank the person who's responsible for that, because I didn't have this idea myself.
Yes.
I feel really ashamed of that.
Oh, no.
I should have done that.
That's why it's a collaboration, because I was like, we got to pull these out.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I'm really thankful for the person who did this.
Well, you're welcome. Only took 3 days.
Yeah, only.
But look, here's 2 parts. And so we go to part 3. All I have to do in multi is turn on stack mode, and now you can layer up to 4. So let's go to part 3 and use just another one of these BPM attack parts. So that's 3 of 40 possible. And then go to part 4, and of course there is a ton of killer drums of all sorts. So we could come down here to a kick. And we're rocking. And we'll get to the drums more, but as you can see, I put a V3 at the first kick, because if you happen to go to all of the Airwave drums are stacked now together, organized. So all the part 1 kicks and all the part 2 kicks, and I made a little line in the sand so you know where the part 3 starts. For kicks.
Speaking of low end, I see here a question from Harald that I would like to address, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Any tips for achieving the kind of low end you do here? Well, there is a cool trick that I use all the time in Omnisphere for this kind of patches, and you can double check in the patches. What you can use is the Studio EQ, and you use on the left side of Studio EQ you have the high pass filter, and I use it at a 50 hertz frequency,
Right.
approximately, and I raise the Q. It has a double function. It's a well-known fact. First of all, it cleans up everything below like 40 hertz. Well, basically, and because of its slope, and on top of that, it creates a resonance bell
Little
around
bump.
50 to 60 hertz. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really, really. I'm not using this on every single patch, but I got to use it on the basses, I think, and some bass lines because it's really, really helpful.
So here's an example. 1 second. Let me turn on Studio EQ. What he's talking about is you change the mode to high pass filter. So now the only two that work is the frequency and the Q. Gain no longer works in this.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you bring this down into this range here and then you bring up the Q,
that's how it works. You see, it amplifies the low end.
you can get it to hit the bump just really nicely. There's a new effect. Yeah. Go ahead.
This is something I discovered when producing records like 12 to 14 years ago. While I was working on a production with a friend of mine, and all of a sudden I was like, hey, I'm using the channel EQ into Logic. And all of a sudden I was like, hey, but this thing is ace, actually.
Yeah.
I'm raising the, and I ended up doing this with every single, and actually you have to be careful with that because if you overdo it, you will have a lot of masking at the mixing process, at the mixdown process.
Yeah, you have to be very judicious.
You have to be really careful. And
it's also kind of a pick and choose. It's like choose what you want to have to be the bass, and then don't let anything else be the bass.
Yeah.
If you have two things that are conflicting, then you might need to look at what frequencies they can each occupy so that they don't step on each other, or use like LFO tool or something to duck the kick drum when the synth bass hits. But another effect that just came out that I am really enjoying, and I'll give them a props. I'm going to do a full video on this, is from Denise. It's called Bass XL. And it has the ability to do a sweet spot and then control the mix with drive and tone controls. And it's
cool.
It's incredible. It's an incredible plugin. So if you go
I haven't seen it before.
Just came out. Just picked it up. Denise is a new company, and this can do some crazy things. Like if here, let's do this. Let's call up a BPM bass real quick.
Well, thanks for the tip, John.
My pleasure. I'm. Let's see. Find a BPM bass so we really hear. Let's say this, right? Okay. So let's bring up the mix. Here, focus that. You can overdo it very easily. And then you have tone controls and drive. We'll flatten it out. And then there's a few other options. You can also solo it, so you can tell exactly what you're focusing on.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So you could have it just be the sub without it being everything else on top. So it's not an expensive plugin, and I found I've used it in a couple of demos already, and it's really helpful to notch in and frequency focus on certain sounds.
That's a cool plugin, yeah.
It works in a different way than I've seen anything else work. So
I see here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just see here a comment from David Williams. So many tracks are ruined by too much ducking. This is absolutely true what you're saying.
Yeah.
But there is a workaround. When you're ducking, for example, you have kick and bass fighting with each other. A good thing is to use a plugin such as Volume Shaper instead of LFO tool. I'm a big fan of Volume Shaper by Cable Guys myself.
Cable Guys, absolutely.
Because you can do multi-band ducking, and that saves actually your audio to just duck the low end of your signal.
Instead of doing
really
like
useful.
a whole
Instead of
low pass filter, whoa, or the volume.
overdoing it. And actually, I can also point you to another tutorial from someone I like for his YouTube tutorials, not the music, and that's Zen World. He made a great tutorial about ducking and how to make it right. Because if you overdo it, then you ruin your audio. Indeed, yeah. So what you are saying is absolutely true, but smart people do it the smart way. You see what I mean?
Yeah, it just depends on what you want to achieve. Because, I mean, it is kind of the modern sound to have that ducking applied to certain things so that other things can really be emphasized. So if you don't like that effect, but you want the benefit, like Laurent's talking about, there's other ways of accomplishing that.
Yeah.
Without being so dramatic.
No.
Unless you want to be dramatic. It's cool to be dramatic.
Let's go on with the
yes.
patches.
All right. So after the bass attacks, yeah, we got sidetracked, didn't we? So after bass attacks, and then there's more BPM basses for days, as you can see, and they're I mean, so much to play with now. The sounds even more so than before. I love that. It's awesome. There's chords, and then we get into drums, and drums for days. Because I'm going to show in multi-mode real quickly. After the BPM bass come BPM drums, and there's, as Laurent was talking about, he made his own booms. So let me show you just some of those. If we go over here to,
yeah, boom attack, for example. Yeah.
Right. All these hits here. There's 11 different booms. And they're pitchables across the keyboard. And these are all new, fresh. These are not using any source from other libraries, of course. This is done the old school way.
On the fly. Actually, these are real field recordings. Can you believe this? These are real field recordings. So I went to the parking lot and I got the luck of my life. Someone was clapping his trunk, his car trunk into the parking lot.
Nice.
And I was on the side recording it. And I was really patient because I could see that person walking, you know, from inside the parking lot to his car.
Yes.
And he claps the trunk, and I hear this wonderful reverb. I was like, "Oh man, what you've done here."
Thank you.
Yeah.
So there's claps long. Now these are unique in that. That's real reverb, right? Is that?
There is partly
combo?
true reverb coming from the parking lot or the environment, and then I doubled it with reverb. This is what they commonly do, especially with as a trick.
Very unique. And then the crashables. Explain what a crashable is in the hits.
Actually, these are small things I did, mostly with.
They don't sound small.
Well, what I did is recycle some of the kitchen recordings.
Mm.
So the knives, the glasses, and everything, and I layered them with small samples, small pieces of crashes and everything. The different samples I have, 808, 909, stuff like that.
Yeah, they're very unique.
I used a lot of ring modulator and a frequency shifter on there, and I made use of.
Very cool.
So this is not your usual crashing.
No.
This is,
Isn't that all that stuff at the end? There's cool tails. So these are production tools that complement the other Airwave libraries, and there's 25 different, which of course pitch bend.
Yeah.
I think for the library's not out yet. I think we'll set these up to be an octave up and down, so that you have more room to do more dramatic things like that.
And that's always really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So anytime you do an edit, you can just go save patch quick, and I'll make a middle note. We'll fix those up. Then there's hit combos. There's an air doom. Kind of a cinematic drum in a way.
And don't forget, on each of those patches, you also have full control. They're
Yes.
using the same effects mostly, which should be something like filter on CC1.
Yeah.
And then or something in the lines, and then CC2 and CC4 must be something like ring modulator or FM. If I remember correctly, I'm not sure here because let me. Sorry about that. Let me check. There was so much material here. Getting lost myself. Oh, I'm into the loops here. Here, V3, drums or hit, and here, and let me check here in the patches. Yes. So there is a wave shaper, which is the bit reduction or a sample. The downsampling on CC67 soft pedal, but the foot controller is Harmonia, and then we use Will for ring mod depth, and the breath controller for ring mod frequency. This is really useful in working with sonic vocals and effects like this because they give you another perspective.
Yeah. Here, listen real quickly. I'll give you a really quick demo of just this one sound with these controllers. So you have those 4 element and components. So if you're doing sweeps, it doesn't have to just be, it can be, which is really, really cool. These combos these are where he's using, we haven't shown the risers yet. Let's get to risers. So at the end of the list, keys, there's some lovely pads, there's sweeps and transitions. These are new sample-based mess them up and sweep them how you need them in time.
Let me just add something up on top of this, especially with the risers. The reason of their existence in this library, it happened by accident, as I said. I was planning to release some kind of template for Ableton Live for people wanting to do their radio show.
Right.
Because there are so many people who ask me, hey, how do you do your radio show? Assuming that I was doing the voiceovers, but also the liners and everything on my own. They were like, hey, how did you do that? And actually, I was using, existing sample libraries myself, but I was like, hey, I would love to be able to do that for, beginner DJs who got a gig on the radio, a regular one, and they need something they could use quickly just to put their show together and just add their radio liners.
But these are more than just beginning radio. It became much bigger than that. These are like...
And it became really it became really clear when I added into Omnisphere. It was like, man, this is too good for the truth.
all sorts of really cool So there's fun things to mess up. So after the rises, we have the transforms, which are like transitions, right?
Yeah.
So they have reverb added and stuff at the end. It's not a cold stop to these. That's really cool. Some even have like a massive hit at the end, right?
Well, on my YouTube channel, I will probably do a few videos explaining the process of doing this kind of sounds. Actually, it's really, really, well, not that simple, but with a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of sweating too, because it demands a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, you can pretty much achieve the same kind of stuff yourself, you know.
Right.
I made intensive use of one of my favorite synthesizers ever, which is now part of Logic, and this is Alchemy. Actually, everything you hear was done into Logic and especially Alchemy, because it's such a great piece of an instrument. Yes. Really.
Yeah. By the way, make sure that you get, if you don't know, we just released our first library of patches for Alchemy before this library, and so that's 160.
And it's a hit, guys.
It's a hit. It came out really well. So if you have Logic Pro X, Alchemy it is not a lightweight synth. It goes up against virtually any synth I can think of on the planet, spec-wise, and for it to be included in a DAW package is just insane. Yes.
So,
okay.
Go back to the.
Yes. So once you get through that and all of the drums, we'll talk about game in a second. There's effects as well. These are found sounds, I think, that Laurent was talking about in the field. That have been processed to be really cool. And this is before we start.
This one was me playing in the kitchen with the two glasses. The first glasses with water in there.
Oh.
Two glasses. Really useful.
Yeah, you put this behind a groove and it's just this really cool swirling. It doesn't have a pitch, which is nice. Yeah. And there's 7 of these to work with. That's a cool hit. What the heck?
This, I guess you don't know what it is.
It sounds like something from a Star Wars show, you know?
No. Actually, you wouldn't believe what the origin of this sample.
Let's do this. Anybody, here, let me play it again. Everybody guess what you think the source is before Laurent tells us. So here's the original pitch. Where'd that come from? Athena? No, Athena had nothing to. Athena hasn't been to Belgium. Laurent is talking to us from Belgium. I hear kids. I hear voices.
Yeah.
Is this a stretch?
It's actually kids screaming after school. They were, in the front. I don't know the name of it, but they were in the front, at the front of the school, and they were like screaming. And I asked them. I purposely asked them to scream in the microphone.
Because I can hear just a little like talking in the background, like voices being switched, but that's and then processed after the fact to become a cool sound design element. That's awesome. Very cool. BPM perk. Now, as you can see, these look like they are attack things like the basses, and that is correct. Because in the multi-mode, there are these BPM, let's see, go through the drums to the perk attacks. These are using the percussion samples that Laurent recorded, but dividing the duties. If you watch, there's 4 of them playing different components. So you can mess them up in really cool ways. There's 10 of them, or actually 8 of them to get you started.
Actually, I would like to add something. This library stinks underscore stuff. What I mean by underscore is the kind of stuff you can just use when scoring a TV series and everything.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to use. There is someone who specializes in that kind of work, and I'm sure we can mention the competition here because
Sure.
it's not really a competition. It's he's a friend. His name is Matt Bowler from The Unfinished.
Yeah.
And he's specialized into that kind of stuff for the Zebra synth, and he's doing it well. But I wanted to have my take on this. And when I started importing those small percussion sounds that I made in my kitchen here, I was like, hey, this is crazy what he can do with Omnisphere and just a bunch of field recordings.
Yes.
It's just crazy. So I came up with this idea of making tons of underscore stuff. There is so much material that you can use here in this collection. You can do your own, like thousands of.
So there's 8 of these in multis. We took the time and pulled out all of those separate components as patches. So when we get back here after it initializes to the patch page, you'll see that there's 32 BPM perk attacks. Right here, the perk attacks. So each one of those. So again, you could. Some don't play it, the downbeat.
Yeah, of course.
And
That's
some are
the
just
point,
subtle
actually.
things. So it's not about everything just ripping your head off from beat 1. That's really important.
Yeah, they feel like a construction kit. They're gonna come in really handy when making your own multis. That's the point of their existence here. And really thankful once again for doing this because I didn't think about it, and you guys were like, "Hey, but we have to do this."
Yes, we have to pull it out. So here, I'm going to take one of these sparse percussion things and just add a kick to it. These are break kicks. As you can see, we haven't gotten to them yet, but in multis, there's breaks, chill, and house grooves. And we've pulled out all of the elements for all of those. So if you keep going down the list, you'll get to just kicks instead of the breaks. So if we go to here to the kicks, here's house kicks. These would be pretty cool. So you can see how it's filling the holes of that single percussion groove instead of hitting your head off. And if we go over here to the different ones, there's a really cool gap in that one. And then go over here to, let's do more perk. Interesting. So it's all about giving you modules, making this as expandable, and you get to build your own grooves. It's not so much about just preset grooves that you buy at the store and take home and bake them in your oven and that they sound the same as what you bought. This is all about pulling them out so that you get the chance to be creative and use these things. People love to make your own patches. There's a lot of people that diss preset libraries, and I can appreciate that opinion, but here it's hundreds of hours spent giving you these components that you can turn into your own thing very easily. And so it's a whole different concept. And it's really nice to have all of that. There's BPM pads as well we should show. That came out really great. BPM pads are after the drums. Right here. My gosh, these were beautiful. Oh wait, I'm on part 3. So let me get over here. Playing a pad and being all like, oh, this is gonna be a cool pad, then you play a synth sound. Yeah. So you can totally. And there's just one. And there's like 10 here to work with. Questions about life. Beautiful stuff. Pads, these are so fun to work with and to change the elements of them. Do you have any thoughts, Laurent?
I mean, I really was, that was your request. You were like, hey, more BPM pads, please. And
yes.
You are right. Actually, I had to do them. And I'm really happy that I did. I see here a question from Doug Walker 350.
Yes.
Did you settle on a convention for what kind of impact each controller channel has? No. Actually, I did it pretty much instinctively.
Yeah.
There is no convention. Except for the mouthpiece, because for the mouthpiece, I made a few decisions of muting a few controls, a few mod sources, or adding some others on top, and that makes sense. But everything came up really, quickly. Actually, I just had to stack them all up and see what it gives.
Right.
And this is what I did for the multis.
Right.
But everything else, there was no convention. There was just, I wanted to have something really useful for the mod wheel still.
Yes.
For most patches.
Right.
Because, in the case you don't have full control, you just have your mod wheel. You're a poor guy just having a mod wheel. You can still use it. Well, it's the reality of our world too. Not everyone has, a big controller or with eight V pods or 8 faders or something like that.
Right.
And many people I know, they just have a small keyboard, just like
one mod. Yeah.
Just the mod wheel if it has a mod wheel.
Yes.
I still remember some models from Novation that don't even have a mod wheel on there.
Yeah.
I avoid them by all means, by the way.
Yeah.
It's,
yeah. Well, it seems like most companies, even on their inexpensive stuff, are trying to add at least a number of knobs or faders to work with. So it's not a luxury in like a $1,500 entry point. It's $100 to get in to having more than one controller. The other thing is most DAWs will let you do this. I have these on my screen. I've programmed them into Logic in the environment. I'll do a video talking about this because I could play this and I could be recording this. And it would be recorded and record these changes into Logic, and then I could see it and I could automate it after the fact. So you can do it in software without hardware. The thing is that with a screen like this, I can't do this. I can't have all 4 go up or down. And I'll tell you what happened. So I went to Guitar Center and I was trying to find something that had faders, and they didn't have anything that had faders. And they just had some things that had knobs. And so I got a little Akai thing that had drum pads. And I was like, well, that'll be useful. And it had the knobs. And so it had these ability to, spin 1 or 2 at a time. I couldn't do all 4. And then Laurent sent me yesterday all of these videos for promotion, and I was like, oh my god! I mean, let's see here. I'm gonna actually, if I can't debut it, but the one for today is on Maltese, and so that one I'll be showing later. But he sent me. I can show you just a minute of the video. For example, here's his Maltese video. I could get so you hear it. Let's do this. I'll make it so we can hear it. So if I come over here to Logic, this is on the fly, fun editing stuff. So if we go here, and I say Maltese and import this into Logic, and it'll say extract the audio and open the movie. Use 30, that's fine. So check this out. Here is what Laurent sent me, and I was like, oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to get myself something so that I can do this, because all of a sudden he's like doing all these cool flip up moves. The real time moves. I was like, I want to do that. I got to do that. Ah! So I went back to Guitar Center. I said, hey, do you have any of the Machine Jam in stock? And they said, yeah, we got one. So I went down there. It turns out it's used. This is used. And I saved $100. This is $300, $299 US. And it's really cool. It's got sliders. As you can see, I can move them. They light up. You can even change what color the lights are. I changed them to purple, green, blue, and red. So you can make them work. And by doing this, I'm able to do all four sliders at once. So
basically, I would like to add something up here.
Yeah.
I will do a tutorial about this with controller editor. Machine Jam is the perfect fader bank for any media composer out there.
Yeah.
Because you have you have so many and contact library developer on the market right now. You have the likes of Spitfire Audio, you have ADO, you have Sound Iron, you have of course Native Instruments. You have us now. You have, and they all have their specific, fader banks, and they're all using different CC numbers.
Yes.
The good side of Machine Jam, if you look at the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H
those
buttons,
are pages.
Yeah, these are pages, and actually,
as you can see,
pages corresponds to its respective fader bank. So actually, you have access to 64 MIDI CC underneath there, down there.
Right.
This is the craziness of it, and so you can actually you reuse the buttons above and transform them into key switches, so into real keys, into real note numbers, and you have 64 of them. So you can put them into, transform them into key switches, and voila, and you're set, And this is something I will show in detail one day in a video. This is something I wanted to do for a long while, but
yes.
Life was not very easy for me the last 18 months, let's say, and
Yes.
and I didn't have the time to do everything it takes. Many people can check out. I was really busy the last summer. I played the live on stage, on the main stage at Tomorrowland. And
that was incredible.
With my Laces keyboard.
That's with like 200,000 people, right? It was you have crowd.
180,000 people attending to the festival, and I was playing there like for 30,000 people, and my keyboard was wireless, and it was lagging like hell, man. Incredible. Terrible. So I felt like a bit frozen on stage, but now you get the reason why. The problem is that there was like interference with the radio signal somewhere, and my playing was freezing all the time. So it happens every now and then. Nothing is perfect, but props to the Alesis guys for releasing such a great piece of MIDI keyboard, because it's really great actually.
Yeah.
Except for that really
except for that moment there, right?
Yeah, but it's cool, It's for me much better than my previous model.
Right.
So really cool. But yeah, so I would like to do more tutorials on my YouTube channel, and I will post every single video with the sound examples on my YouTube channel in the next few days.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I will probably do a video with me making a track with the patches only in
Definitely.
Logic. So you have an idea of what to expect from the library itself in context, in action. This is what matters the most for
so people. As you can see in the multi-mode, there are these drum grooves. There's break beats, which let me call one up. You'll see these in the video that we released, the teaser today. It's a 7-minute teaser, so I tried to make it shorter, but there was so much to show. I might condense it a little bit more, but and again, the real time controls. There's 10 beat break beats. And again, we've pulled all these elements out. Hello, Logic. Thank you. So each one of these elements are pulled out as separate patches for you to work with. The chill beats are really great. Combination of synthesis and new samples. Some things change pitch, some things don't.
Yeah. So based on the nature of the source material, whenever it's a kick, I put the keyboard tracking to off.
Right.
And when it's like percussion and hats and everything.
Yeah.
Well, I tried the keyboard tracking, and actually it turned out to sound really great because you have those many options, and don't forget, once again, full control.
Right.
So CC1, CC2, 4, and 67.
Right.
So it's a killer feature, I think.
Yes. Yeah, that's something that we did with the OMG loops. On all the OMG libraries for Omnisphere, they have the loops play where typically the kick doesn't transpose. Sometimes it does. If you want it to sound like a loop, you're speeding up and slowing down. It's really easy to go to each part. And right here you have key tracking on and off. So you can just turn it off for the parts that you want it to be tracked on. Like these, with the light on means they do. These with the light off mean it doesn't. So the kick drum, wherever I play, you get show MIDI up so you can see the keys I'm playing. Wherever I play, the kick isn't changing.
Exactly, but everything else will.
So you can get these cool melodic texture things that can almost be like the melody of a song if you want to go in that direction. You can do it. Then we get to the chill recycling. Oh wait, we're in the patches. So house beats. These are just as expected from Laurent. I mean, makes me want to get out some margaritas and play really loud music. But there's great stuff. And again, all of these components, that clap is a separate patch, so you can build using just that if you want.
Yeah, this one is really cool.
The patch doesn't change pitch. It's cool.
Yeah.
But he's 3, so if you go to 3 and say turn on pitch, you can. It's just whether you want to or not. So once we get to all the beats and the Percussion, these are menus of grooves, but instead of being layered, this gives you the chance to stack them in real time yourself. Check this out. We hit the stack button once it loads. They're mapped across the keyboard. So now you can can work the combination out how you want it to be.
Yeah.
Play them in sparse parts or not.
Yeah. Also worth mentioning, some multis use the sync position function. So you have to start Logic, Cubase, Ableton to have them, running in sync. But the cool thing is, these menus double up as a way to just gate your sequences, gate your percussion sequences. So the arpeggiator on each channel follows the song tempo, the song position. And that means that actually you can just play like the kick drum and then another part of another loop and everything. It's really cool, and you can really put your whole thing together.
Right.
And so much fun to play. It's like, playing the Game Boy, actually. It's well, speaking of which, we'll have some fun in the next few minutes too.
Yes.
But you have an idea of what you can do here. It's just crazy.
Yeah. So what he's talking about is in each of these patches, its arpeggiator is synced to not note on, but to song position. So that way they stay in sync no matter when you play a note. It doesn't restart over, which makes sure that it's keeping all these separate. They're not listening to when you play, because if you play those all like that, you might be late. You're going to end up with delays and stuff.
But if you don't hit the play button of your DAW, whatever it is, assuming it has one, well, it's gonna run out of sync. That's a problem. But
hit play.
Knowing that, they will play. They will play. But it's not gonna be in sync.
And then they're in sync. All right, so we've got basses, BPM basses, drum groove elements, transitions, sweeps, effects, hits, all of these things from Airwave. But there's another part of the library that he just alluded to that is just mind-blowing. And I saw these, like 6 months ago? He sent me just a quick video playing these. And I thought he had recorded these from the separate games. He did not record these, my friends. These are pure synthesis inside of Omnisphere using waveforms. In fact, I'm not going to show you I'll show you on a couple of them, but I don't want to give away any secrets. But if you go to the game, there's Game Pack, Game NES, Game Galaga, 2600.
Pure synthesis.
Everything is pure synthesis. He modeled all of these samples. This is using an Odyssey Square.
And actually, the full control is being used here as a means to circuit bend your your gaming console. Which is cool.
Oops. The ROM just got corrupt. But they go on. Sounds like the coin drop. It's not.
But from what?
It's a square wave, but it's the way it is treated and programmed.
Oh, what is it?
Losing Hearts from the early Link.
Oh yeah. Oh, just worth noting, these are not exact replicas, okay? I just don't want any trouble with those people.
Right.
With the people from
they're inspired by,
but not exact replicas.
Right. More money, please. Jumping up, hitting a mushroom or the pipe. I can't hear you. What'd you say?
Nothing.
No, I'm not going to the mall. No, I'm not. That's not true. Oh, I gotta go. My girlfriend's calling me. So there's all these. And my girlfriend is not anywhere close to that, of course, but.
Yeah, munching tablets, it's really reminiscent of, the good old fashioned. That's my take on,
Yes.
and my whole.
So on top of the hits, the booms, the basses, the drum grooves, and everything else, you have some incredible game sounds to work with in this library. So it just goes everywhere. There's over 500 patches. It will be over 100 multis by the time we're done. I gotta make like 5 myself.
1,000 patches, guys.
I know.
1,000 patches.
I know.
Who does that?
I know it.
No one else. Only us.
Yes. So that's this library. Now, what's the second library, Laurent?
The loops.
Loops.
Yeah.
What?
That was my.
What are you talking about? What?
Yeah.
Are you talking about 260 drum loops inside of Logic or inside of Omnisphere?
Yes.
Look at that.
Makes sense. And actually, it's a good complement for the existing sound in Volume 3. So back in 2007 and 2015, if I remember correctly, I got to release a couple drum loop libraries on Loop Masters, and the first one was kind of successful back in 2007, but it was getting dated.
Yeah.
So I had the idea of just recycling all those loops, all this old material into something new, and that was for let's say that other product I was working on, and I never had the idea of importing these samples, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, come on! I just want to see what it gets with granular on and just a loop and see what it becomes.
Because granular has gotten so much stronger in Omnisphere, and it's better quality sounding granular.
First of all, I had to recycle all the loops and make a different version, remix them, because I couldn't, towards Loop Masters, that would be unfair to re-release that on something else. So I remixed the loops into another form. They're all brand new loops, actually, 2-bar loops, and they're all locked to the same BPM, which is 120.
120. Okay.
So that makes sense.
But they shift, just so we're clear. They're synced so that if you're at 120, I'm going to play one here. Right? If I change tempo, it will follow tempo and stay locked.
Yeah.
And again, the 4 controllers. And if we were to go over here and say multi-mode, turn on stack mode, if we went to Airwave Volume 3 and called up a BPM bass, let's say like one of these guys. It's locked. It's insane. Look at that smile. Oops, look what I did.
Oops, it's Omnisphere.
I know, add a kick. So we have drum loops playing inside of Omnisphere.
Yes, But there is one thing you should know about this. Careful.
Yes.
The audio will get like mutated. So it will not sound because of the granular engine, and that stands for any single virtual instrument of that kind featuring granular sampling and everything. The audio will get a bit muffled. You know, it's normal. You shouldn't have too many expectations regarding the sound quality of the loops. But you know, inside a beat, you know, with a with like a good high pass filter and everything.
Yeah.
You can have this wonderful combo. Like you can use the loops on top of the existing multis, for example.
Yes.
One thing, also, they are really CPU intensive in some cases.
Yes.
So
CPU can be an issue. This is one of those cases where using multiple Omnisphere comes into, you know, use another Omnisphere for the Airwave Volume 3 bass and pad part while this is doing a drum thing, instead of trying to have one do everything. Because yeah, it now if we listen, this is with granular on, here's with it off. I can't tell the difference. I hear a little transient thing to it, but the audio quality didn't seem muffled to me at all. Sounds great. And so these are trance inspired, but a lot of these could be used, this could be for chill or down tempo. All sorts of cool. I mean, there's some jams in here. Now, you could take this and just change the filter. Let's say bandpass, like 24 dB. Is there some sort of thing? That's doing a funny thing to this stereo. Hear that? Oh, you probably can't hear it there, but you could do this to make it just a component, to then go over to multi-mode, turn on stack mode, and go to part 2. And let's say we go back, and instead of this, let's use like something like 4-bar minimum. Control our mix. So you can find the place. Here in the frequencies. So the loops don't have to be just loops by themselves soloed out. They can become components of all sorts of mayhem that you want to do with all the other parts of Airwave's libraries. Also, once you get to the end of the 200 loops, there's 245. Go all over the place, right? There's combos where Laurent combined 4 loops.
Yeah, because you have 4 layers.
4 layers, so that there's mutated, which is where you're getting into using synthesis parameters. I made yesterday a whole bunch of sparse loops. So what this is doing is, this is using envelope 4. To take it down. So if you go over here, that's a full loop. And I have a mod slider, part 4, slider 3, CC4. So you can have, now part 7, I got carried away. I went in. This is using on the resonators, radio delay, all sorts of. So you have all sorts of things. That's what's fun with this. Say you like that, right? This is using just a really strong downbeat for a techno groove. So you can go here to the loop list. Oh, I always hit that wrong button because they made them too close to each other. Hit the loop list. Go hit sharing so that it will call up the loops. My friends, there are 250 some crazy drum loops. Go through them, and they will all go through that envelope shape. So one of these reinvents the entire library of 250 loops. And then after that fact, you can go in here and you can play with it and modify it. Say you want this to be a triple. If you want it to be more just a cool element to, like this, it doesn't have so much impact, so you can put this with a bigger loop and you don't have the doubling of kicks and snares. There's all sorts of fun ways to mess it up. So the library is 260 loops, and it also has multis where Laurent has gone through and combined. I see your eye. And these will take your computer down if, in some cases, because they are all using granular. Yeah, my computer can't play it. But maybe yours can. It'll have to be a test basis. Four loops plus a kick going. They're awesome. There's other variations. Mutated. You even have the Road to Trappist Deluxe. This is taking a volume 3 multi and putting drum loops into it, right?
Yeah, that was just an example.
Right. Fun stuff. And this is a case where this is set up a lot like the OMG grooves for low C. Just touch it, it triggers a groove, and now you can play the rest on the keyboard to jam along with and have fun. Awesome. Well done, sir.
No, well done you.
It's a collaboration. We collaborate on this. It's definitely a little bit of involved. I mean, most of this is Airwave, obviously.
Yeah, well.
But if there's little gaps, I like to find the little gaps and fill it out. So there is a lot to go through. And
This is good to teamwork, yeah. Indeed.
Yeah. So that is what we have to offer. If there are any questions, please ask.
I actually, can I just ask you to go back to V3 and
sure.
eventually try playing the pads.
Okay.
The pads and drones, because I think we overlooked it.
Yes, we did.
And I think they are really, really, really cool. Actually, this is a cool technique that I used.
Okay.
Initialize your multi, and that's for I actually recycled all the transitions and boomers and stuff I did.
Okay.
And used that filtered by metal pipe and resonators instead of the normal filters that you get to hear. And you have to hear those pads. They are mind-blowing. They sound like organic.
And they sound great with the grooves. They're kind of designed to complement So there are 7 variations of special pads that are using explosions and crashes to make a pad. So those are added on top of the BPM pads, which have a very different compare this. These are very cinematic. These others are more for the dance and the right. Questions about space? So BPM pads, drums, basses, effects, transitions. It's a complete production toolkit for Omnisphere. So that will be out Monday. Can't wait to get this all out to everybody.
Yeah, there is not much. Well, just a few days patience, guys, and you will be able to discover it in full. And meanwhile, we'll post videos and everything, so it will be covered.
Yeah.
I cannot believe the incredible potential of this library. I mean, this is like reinventing. For me, it felt like reinventing the plugin itself. Felt like, finding my way and really rediscovering the plugin.
Yeah.
Omnisphere still remains one of my favorite synthesizers ever.
Yeah.
I really like the new additions. I was a lot less a fan of the hardware integration because I don't think it was a priority for the top Omnisphere users, but probably we are like the minority of Omnisphere users, and many professionals and people from are synth lovers and they like hardware synthesizers. That makes sense, but personally I'm still missing something like NKS support, but it's pretty much impossible to implement with Omnisphere because there are too many patches. Imagine having to transfer like now with hours like 16,000 patches to NKS format. That would be a nightmare for you guys. So forget it. So it's just
no, hardware is for specific people to help them integrate synthesis from a plugin into a hardware, and I think it's a great thing to I mean, it's a very big undertaking, so they did it because it works, so it's very cool. But depending on who you are and how you use your tools, it might not be a priority, but it's still nice to have.
Yeah, it's cool. But at least I found this alternative with full control, which makes sense to me. It's the only way to control more than one parameter, and this way, I shouldn't, bother Eric and the likes as Percussonics to have that macro page anymore, because we have our own system for the next few. For the next few.
I'd still rather have a macro page, so there was something in the interface that coincided with what we were doing, but we were kind of like going into setting up macros. If you're familiar with Spire, we've done the library for Spire, and we assigned all 4 knobs. We actually standardized them to a certain point, which we might do with future libraries. Since Airwave has kind of like started us in this direction, I think future libraries, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have, certain things on the main controller and then the other two, but at the same time, it's really fun to have the one mod wheel that does everything, including effects. So who knows? But this library has broken new ground with the extensive control in multiple fingers instead of just one controller. So
yeah, that's the point. You should actually, you can really, well, that's the iPhone argument here from Steve Jobs. You can literally touch your music. That's what happens.
Yeah,
you can touch your music. This is something that's become an obsession to me lately, especially with the orchestral libraries and everything I got to use lately. It makes sense to me. You just want to have like physical things.
Well, just so we're clear,
I'm here surrounded by a push machine, a jam, and a complete Control S.
Yeah.
And also
it's all integrated. Yeah.
A mini lab and everything, yeah.
Right.
And it makes sense to me because they're all integrated and they are so much fun to use. So
yeah. Well, just so we're clear, there actually is a macro layer inside of Omnisphere already. If you call up Keyscape or Trillion from inside of Omnisphere, you have this macro, and it takes a long time for them to set it up, but it's different for different patches. What shows up here, what parameters show up here, is defined by them. It takes a long time to set up, but it is a macro page. And then if you don't want the macro page, you can close the macro page, or you can go back to it just like this. So they have macro capability. They just haven't taken it to the point of being user creatable, have that be macro and right here be. So it wouldn't be that hard for them to add that in the future, I would think. It's up to them how they want to design it. It's their plugin. But there is that capability built in already. So it's not like it's this far stretch of huge research to do. I mean, this goes away and just says power synth when you're calling up any other patch. So it'd be, it's possible.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens in the future,
Yeah, but it's really understandable.
Yeah.
I will surprise many of you, but I do not own Keyscape myself.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you cannot have everything, and I have so much already,
Yeah.
And maybe one day I will probably get it, but not now.
Yeah.
Not now. I'm way too busy anyway to own. I've got like terabytes of plugin and instrument libraries here.
Yeah.
It's just crazy, I've got plenty of stuff from ADO, Spitfire Audio Pro, Native Instruments, and it's so much fun to use, but it takes terabytes of data.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whenever I'm looking at something, I'm like, another 50 gigabytes on my hard drive. No, please,
I know.
no.
It's like, is it important?
It's working.
Yeah.
So and another thing to learn.
Yeah.
On top of that, and I'm like, I have so many sounds already that I don't know. Actually, I end up sometimes checking the videos on YouTube to know exactly what I have on my hard drive. It becomes so bad.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not buying anything anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just.
It has to be something like this that gives you something new and fresh, because this is not duplicated very many places that I can think of. What Airwave is bringing, or what Signs of Life with Costa Rica sounds being processed, or Northern Impact that Jason did running sound effects through all sorts of really cool plugins that did all sorts of crazy things to those samples. We at Plugin Guru try to find the holes of things that haven't been done multiple times before, So it kind of try to give people new, inspiring source to work with. So
yeah, pretty much like the OMG and Jason's libraries, and Impact,
and Percussion,
and all the others
which you worked on. You worked on Percussion, remember?
Oh yeah, true. Remember that. Well, they're all unique.
Yeah.
Respectively unique.
Yeah.
That's what I like about them.
That's the goal. Make it something you don't have, so then you want it. Well, thank you, Laurent. I'm sorry I couldn't get the audio configured so it was perfect, but I think everybody understood, heard, and it's so nice to have you on the live stream to.
It was my pleasure, really. I couldn't spend my Saturday night in a better way, really. Yeah, I'm serious about that.
Well,
really,
yeah.
really. I love spending time with people who really like synthesizers, and I am a synthesizer fan. I'm a music fan. Music creation always comes in the first place to me and to a person like me, and so it makes sense, you know, being here, supporting the product, and
Yes.
supporting Plugin Guru, you know, and people who know me, they know that I come by whenever you are doing your streams every now and then on Saturday when I'm not on tour. So makes sense.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
Falcon is a top thing, but you know, another thing.
Do you have
I
Falcon?
to learn.
Do you have Falcon?
I don't have. I do not own Falcon myself because I have already so much, and I'm like, you know, guys, no, thank you. I cannot have everything.
Yeah.
I'm really happy with what I have right now, and
Yeah.
you know, I have to draw a line and just like set my boundaries here and say no more virtual instruments, no more plugins, no more synths, and I just focus on using your libraries because I like them so much. Omniverse, still among my favorites. Also, Omnipulse. Omnipulse was really useful. Bassbox, I use it all the time but in Omnisphere in my case, but that's 4 trillion. And there are also other libraries from, for example, the Unfinished and the other guy from Switzerland, Stefan Berg, Sonic Underworld. He makes also great patches, but for other synthesizers, other than Omnisphere, of course.
Yes.
And you know, I just limit myself to you said it yourself. You can better invest the time to know a synth, and then instead of buying like another 10 or 20 synthesizers, just stick to your 3 or 4 favorite and just buy patches for that.
Yeah.
That's the best thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah.
And for the outside world, because the people who make patches, third party patch makers such as ourselves and all the guys I mentioned.
Right.
And there's also this guy doing these incredible libraries for Serum. Echo Soundworks.
Yeah.
Well, we spend a lot of time, you know, on those libraries. It's not like we are just fooling around and just like DJs. Yeah, look, mom, no hands, and I'm just pressing play. No, we spend a lot of time in the studio. We spend a lot of time making these patches.
Yes.
We spend a lot of time for the love of synthesizers, of synthesis, of this knowledge, this technology, and everything.
Yes.
And by buying patches and everything, rather than new synthesizers, while you invest in that knowledge for yourself too.
Yeah.
Because you can.
The more you use the same synth, the deeper you will understand it, the more artistic you will be with it.
The point is here to do the reverse engineering.
Yeah.
You know, and this is what most people don't get. They just get to new synths and new presets and blah, and then they just do plus and minus, plus and minus, plus and minus. I wouldn't do that. The first thing I do into Zebra even, I have thousands of presets in there, but I also just initialize the patch and do something from scratch. Yeah. This is how you get to learn a software synthesizer.
Right.
And
well, I've heard over and over again, people love to buy your libraries to study what you do in the patches, so they can apply that to their own synthesis. It's you go to school with an Airwave library or with hopefully Plugin Guru libraries too.
With Plugin Guru library, of course. This is how I got to develop V1, actually Volume 1. Because I had already done a few patches, like 40 or 50 in the first years with Omnisphere. And all of a sudden, your videos came by and I was like, hey, I would like to check this guy's videos. And then I bought your libraries, and then I realized that actually the reverse engineering and everything, well, I could do this myself. So
Yeah.
it was really useful. And then I sent you my patches, and you know the story. Well,
Yeah.
it's no
history.
secret there. It's history now. But yeah, it's cool. You know, this is how you grow up yourself personally, and this is why I'm so thankful that there are people like you and all the people I buy patches from
Yeah.
around, because
There's
this
times where
is
you need
great.
to have other people's take on synthesis, you know? You put that into what you're doing and it just adds to your DNA, I think. It's, you know, you're collaborating with us without us being in the studio with you. When you have, you know, a library from Airwave to work with, he's in the studio with you, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, that's always been my goal, you know.
Yeah.
The thing is, there are in my industry, well, in my actual industry, there are a lots of ego trippers, and they just take all the credit for things they haven't done.
Yeah.
Mostly, and you know, I was like, okay, they don't want my music, they will make use of my sounds, and this is exactly what's happening right now. When I see all the positive feedback and all the people going back to me and say, hey, you do these sounds, and I would like to do more with you, and can you? I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Brand new to me. Actually, when you get into the people's sound library, into those guys,
Yeah.
actually, it's like it feels as if your music was into those people's, and this is something really rewarding. This is something unique, a unique feeling. So every single time I hear my samples, or well, my loops, I mean, or my sounds, my patches into someone's production, I'm so happy to hear it. You know? It's
well, even your music. You guys realize how many singles have you released over the last 26, 27 years? Over 500, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I can't see the remix.
So there's a lot of music that's inspired a lot of people just on a music level as well as a technology level. So it's an honor to be able to collaborate and consider you a friend and to do this work. It's, you know.
This is life, man.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
This is life.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you.
I see lots of talking, people going back and forth between Hallian and Falcon, and maybe we'll look at supporting those at some point. I will tell you this, other synthesizers besides Omnisphere for my sales are just a fraction of people buy libraries for those. I think a lot of it gets torrented. I have a company that kills torrent links that is busy all the time taking down links. It's really hard to support things that you can't get paid for. So I'm not sure what we will do for some of the other libraries. We keep looking at stuff, but that's for another discussion. I shouldn't say that. Anyway, thank you again.
There was mention of the price. I mean, the price will get announced next Monday, I guess. Or...
Yes. Yeah, we're going to come up with some packages for the 2 libraries, as well as package for all 4 libraries. If you want to get Airwave Volume 1, 2, 3, and the loops, we'll have all sorts of cool options available. It is a premium library because of the work involved, and the creative design of this took an awful lot of work from a lot of people. So it's not going to be an $80 library, but it's more than what we have currently been charging. So
a little bit more, but it's going to be, you will have plenty of choice, I guess. Well, this is what we discussed, and this is going to be fine for even if your wallet is not full, which is not my case either. But I live for the love of music anyway. So
exactly.
But it's going to be cheaper than buying another synth anyway.
Absolutely.
So
yes. All right.
Okay.
Any questions in the feed? Let's do our shout outs. Everybody do your shout outs. What countries? It will be available Monday. Monday it's available. Shout out from Portland, Oregon. Where are you at, Laurent? No, where are you at?
Great.
Where,
you're Brussels, Belgium.
You're in Brussels. He's in Brussels, Belgium. Shout out from Copenhagen. Best live stream of the year. Thank you.
North Wales.
North Wales. Bavaria.
Terracin comes out on my birthday. Yeah, well, actually, we were born the same day.
That's
Cool.
awesome. From Switzerland. Nice air, epic. From Germany.
Ottawa, SoCal, wow,
Thailand.
Quebec.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
crazy. We got
Yeah.
So it's everywhere. We're a global phenomenon, my friend.
Great, man. And
Nice to
Bernie,
see you,
Amsterdam,
Bernie.
of course.
Bernie.
North Carolina, wow, great.
Yes.
Finland,
Hi, Bill. Hey, Steve. Yeah, Steve's here in Oregon.
great.
Los Angeles. It's so good to see all you guys. Thank you for joining us for this thing that we do. Did you ever play any King unique music?
I think so, but I'm not sure anymore.
Yeah.
It got up to a few years ago, so I was like, oh, maybe. I'm not sure, but
Right.
I know the name. I know
Yes.
the name.
Nice, Wayne. Good to see you. Saxony, Toronto,
Stockholm.
Stockholm. Can you ask which
Wow.
plugin should I buy for drum and bass? Well, use Falcon. You've got Falcon. Use it.
Yeah, and if you want to have a great drum and bass beat, I cannot. I can only recommend getting a Machine Jam, just like John and I, because it's a crazy thing, and you get a copy of Machine with that.
Yes.
With an incredible library.
Yes.
By the way.
And off you go. Because these buttons up here, I don't know if you know this, but these can be triggering things. You can make grooves and all sorts of stuff with just the Machine at Jam. It's
Yeah.
more than just a controller for the sake of controlling. It can control your sequencer. I've just started diving into it, so I got a long ways to go, but it's got a lot to go.
Yeah.
A room by
Great. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, guys.
All right.
It was really fun being with you today.
Yes.
And featuring all those sounds. We'll have more videos.
Yes.
In the next few
Lots
days.
of support coming. So, all right. See you guys later.
See you guys later. Bye.
Bye. Are you sure? Yes.